Could you continue to scale your business if you could just find more labor? What's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maska, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous business. Today we have with us Matthew Hellrung. Matthew is the co-founder and partner of Meltzer Hellrung. He specializes in helping companies meet their talent needs through immigration program creation and management. So that is Matthew Hellrung. Matthew, thank you so much for being here. What's going on today?
Oh, thank you for having me, Paul. It's hot. It's hot in Chicago.
Well, I used to live in Chicago, so take advantage of we're recording this in August. Take advantage of the warm weather while you can, because I know the winters can sometimes be long in Chicago. So
doesn't last forever. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, all of our listeners are in the trades. There has been a shortage of labor in the trades for decades at this point, I think. So we'll definitely get some good insight and wisdom from you on how we can help them get more people working for their companies. But before we jump into all of that, give our listeners just a little bit backstory on you, how your journey got started, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. My basic skill set's corporate immigration attorney. I worked for one of the largest firms in the country for several years. Split off with a business partner about 10 years ago and founded our firm, Meltzer Hellrung, specializing in corporate immigration, helping, as you mentioned, businesses acquire access to talents, staff, and scale their people programs depending on the business they're in. I primarily oversee in the business right now HR, sales, marketing, biz dev, as well as consult on our largest accounts, and I'm responsible for helping create immigration solutions for our new clients.
Awesome. So you're wearing a lot of hats there, like a lot of our listeners. So we focus on the blue collar trades, like I mentioned before earlier. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the political climate, whether people believe in it or not, it's happening. We're living in it. What are some solutions? How can someone like you and your organization help our people that are listening to the show today in the trades find more people?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it at the top of the conversation here. There has been a complete there's been a shortage in the skilled trades, for many, many years, including retail, construction, restaurants, even farm workers, for example. What we can do, or what business owners can do to supplement that, really, is to take a look at what's known as the H2B program. This is a program that is approved by the Department of Labor, instituted by the Department of Homeland Security. It allows about 65,000 workers to enter the United States each year on temporary work visas. And I talk to general contractors, pavers, bricklayers, plumbers, electricians on how can we get more individuals into our business. And this is the primary solution that we recommend. Now, there are some caveats to it, however, which are that your business has to be seasonal in nature. Now, if you're in construction or trades, there are often seasons to what you're doing. For example, we have a large paving company that has that paves a lot of the roads around Chicago. They use an H2B program to bring workers in from Mexico legally and work for the business, and then they go home about every 9 months. Now, that business has a seasonality to it in that you really can only pave roads in the summertime, spring or fall, for example.
Gotcha. So let's dive into that a little bit. And when we I guess there's a couple questions. First, how do we say I want to do the H2B program. I run a landscaping company. We're super busy from April till October, and then we usually have to lay off everybody over the winter, and then we start this vicious cycle over again. We can never scale. What is the first step to get into that program before we even go find people and train them and all that? What's the first step to actually get going with that program?
I mean, the H2B is a somewhat complicated process. So I would honestly say, and this is no self-interest of my own, find an immigration attorney to help you work with you to create a program to do it. Now, it does take some preparation time. You can't just, pick up H2B workers tomorrow. It usually would require about a 6-month lead-in time to the season that you want to have the individuals in the United States working for you. So, for example, the lottery that everybody really applies for the summer season is in January typically, and you have to start that process in September, October range to file for the wage. So there's a couple steps here that you have to do. So find yourself an immigration attorney. Secondarily, figure out what countries that you want to pull people from. There are a specific list of countries that you can recruit individuals from. It's not just everywhere. And then third, you want to look for how do you advertise the wage or the job or find those individuals in country. There are outsourced companies that will assist in searching for these individuals, applying through the process. You can use your own internal, recruiting and or HR team to sift through those applications for individuals abroad. And you have some basic skill requirements in that job position that you're looking for, right? If you're looking for landscaping, like, experience being a day laborer, experience with plants, experience with driving trucks, things like that, that are all generally kind of basic skilled, mid to low skill attributes that you would find in a workforce that you're looking for. From there, you have to put a job description together with the immigration attorney. It's pretty simple. We're looking for a landscape day laborer, for example, 8 to 10 job duties, some hiring skills or requirements that the individuals have to have, like a driver's license, for example, or if they have some type of certification for the industry, you may require that they have that as well. We file that job description with the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor, 60 to 90 days later comes back and says, this is the prevailing wage for the position, dependent on what type of job it is, landscaping, plumber, electrician, day laborer, bricklayer, for example, and where that job is physically located in the United States. That will determine the prevailing wage. Now, people kind of say, prevailing wage, like we don't pay that high. There's always a concern there. Most of these wages are built off of the labor market already. So if you are paying competitive wages in your market or trying to and not finding folks, most likely the wage that you're willing to pay individuals will be above what the prevailing wage is that's issued by the Department of Labor. Thereafter, you have to go out and shop and show and advertise the position in a couple specific ways in your local area. You collect you're already doing that anyways, right? You're already looking for laborers. So most of the things that you're already doing would qualify for that recruitment. Thereafter, we sit back and we say, maybe we need 50 people, let's say 50 landscapers for the upcoming season. We can only find maybe 20 that are qualified. Great. Fine, hire the 20 that you can find in the United States, but that gives us 30 more that we can then recruit for in perhaps Mexico, or another country close by, South America, and apply for H2B visas for each one of those individuals, or at least submit in a lottery to get a number of those H2B visas available for that 30 population that you can't find.
Gotcha. That's super helpful, insightful. So one of the things you mentioned, I'm curious, you mentioned driver's license. So if they have a driver's license in their country, they are then legally allowed to drive here, say a work vehicle, while they're working here through that visa. Is that correct?
Typically, yes, but you can also get, like, if you need a CDL or something like that, that's a standard, international license that you can get. You can also often apply abroad in the United States for those licenses ahead of time. It could be part that you bring those individuals over initially if it's some specific license that you have to have here and put them through a training program the moment they get here, get that license, and then send them on the job.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's kind of walk through this. So we posted a job. We need 50 people for the upcoming season. We've got 20. We need 30 more. We're going to go through the H2B program. They say we win the lottery, whatever it is. They say, okay, you can hire 30 people from another country. Has to be close by, prevailing wage, all those good things. Then who's doing the recruiting in the other country? Is it us? Do we find a third party that's already in that country that's doing the recruiting? How does that process work?
So it depends on the employer, really. If some of these employers are larger, they already have, a well-developed HR and recruiting function because they're always looking for folks. So oftentimes, they may contract an individual in Mexico, for example, to be the boots on the ground, but they would do the recruiting internally, collect the resumes, find the individuals that have the qualifications. There are companies that you can contract if you're a smaller business and you don't have an in-house HR recruiting function, that you can contract abroad who will set up the job description, put it through the verticals of where they advertise positions at and pull those resumes and bring those individuals to you. And that's a small additional cost here. But I would also leverage that every unfilled position that you have in your business that you can't fill is business that you're losing, right? If you can't, that's another crew that you can't staff for a landscaping business or a paving business, even though you have the contracts to get it done. So there is a little bit of cost here. So primarily it's what we see. Either the businesses handle it in-house or they hire a company to do the recruiting in country. And we can also, as a law firm, we have relationships with a lot of these recruiting companies and can facilitate an introduction to those individuals as part of the service, and then I can contract with them directly.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So now we're going further down the road. We got the
Yeah.
people. They're here. They're working. They're awesome. We got them trained up, and now they have to go home. And I would say, as a business owner, just thinking through of it, I used to be a partner in a
Mhm.
landscaping business. I've owned an electrical
Yeah.
company. When it comes time for that season to come back, say next year, are
Mhm.
we able to bring these same people back on board so that way they already know us, they know our processes, they know how we do things, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? I want to back up quickly. So, let's say you have that 30 spots available that you can't find in the workforce, right? That
Yep.
gives you the opportunity to submit in the lottery 30 positions, basically the same position 30 times. Now, the lottery is random. You get about 65,000 or 33,000 visas available per season. The nice thing about this is, though, with a stroke of the pen, the president can actually double that number. They did it a few years ago in the first Trump administration when they were finding, difficulties in finding people in the workforce to fill positions. So that of those 33,000, I submit 30. You might get like half. It is a random lottery, so you might get half, maybe 20 out of the 30, 15 out of the 30. That gives you 15 or 30 spots to fill. Now we've already done our recruitment in Mexico, for example, for this position. So we have our 15 or 30 people that we want to bring over. We then pull that together, submit an application to the USCIS, separate government agency. That gets approved in a few weeks. Thereafter, we can then send those individuals to the U.S. consulate or embassy in Mexico to get their H2B visa stamps. When they enter the United States, great, they're work authorized right away. They're ready to go. You do have to provide housing for the individuals and transportation back and forth to the job, so that's a requirement. You can typically subcontract that out to a lot of the businesses and some of the smaller ones. Oftentimes, the business owners will have rental properties that they will use for this purpose already in another portfolio or investment scheme. But you can always contract and get reduced rates, and obviously that goes into the total compensation package that you're paying the person. From there, they show up on the job, they're ready to go, they work the season. As long as they can work, usually 6 to 9 months, 9 months typically maximum. So you can think, spring, summer, and fall for businesses that have that. Um, but the season can be any length. So uh, we saw a lot of H2Bs come in from Mexico for firefighters because a business in California contracted them for the quote unquote fire season, which is typically 3 to 4 months long in California. So the season can be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. 9 months is the maximum. Now you flipped over, you've done it your first time, your first year. You've had a decent experience with the individuals that you're bringing over. You got your feet wet. You sort of understand how the program works. You can then file next year and bring the same people back. Now you have to convince the same people to come back, but the same individual can come back to the business year after year after year after year if they wish. For a maximum of typically 3 years, but depending on how long, you could be up to 6. So.
Gotcha. That's super helpful. I appreciate you digging into that. I know a lot of listeners out there could take away a lot of things from that, especially if they can come back the following year if you like them and they're trained up and they can just hit the ground running. So, as we kind of transition this conversation with kind of what's going on in the political and economic climate of bringing a lot of jobs back, bringing a lot of manufacturing back, bringing a lot of things that have been done overseas, whether it's moving back because of tariffs or economic reasons or geopolitical reasons, whatever it is, we see the
Sure.
push to bring a lot more things made in America, done in America, all that kind of stuff. Where do you see the future of immigration kind of going in this to, like you said, to support all those jobs? Because there's probably more jobs than people here that want and can do those jobs.
Yeah, there's more jobs right now open than there are people searching at this very second in the United States. Now, it depends on the industry, the skill set the individual has, right? But I mean, last we looked, there was something like, I think, 9 million open positions. There's something more, only like 6 million people looking for jobs at the moment. So there's already a shortage. So that's a lack of growth, right? Think of those 3 million positions. If they were filled, think of how much more growth we would have in the economy because you got people working, people creating things, people providing service. I do think that long term, and the H2B is one avenue, but I think we need a more robust, and we'll probably see some type of more robust guest worker program. They could expand on the H2B category, which is probably the simplest thing to do, add more countries, add more availability, more numbers to the visas, perhaps make it a little bit easier, or condense the application, the preparation period to apply. You can also open up multiple seasons. So I think, realistically, as an immigration attorney, to create an entirely new structure from scratch would require an act of Congress. Now, there are some interesting things happening, and now we have that big beautiful bill that was just passed. There were some immigration enforcement components in that went to ICE. I think they're funding ICE for about $60 billion right now. There's also, I think there's also come out and said that the House Republicans, and particular Jim Johnson, forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, has said that they want to get more of an enforcement bill done by the end of the year or beginning of next year. Now that can easily probably make its way through the House, but it's going to need 7 Democratic votes in the Senate to pass and have the president sign. So we're looking there and thinking that that bill might include a more robust guest worker program to accommodate all of the near or the reshoring of jobs that are coming back through tariffs or other types of deals or policies that the president's doing right now. But I mean, whether you use the H2B program or you create a new work visa program from scratch, which I think is unlikely, it's just too heavy of a lift to do that. The H2B and the H2A programs. H2As are for farmers. There's really no cap on those, so individual farmers can bring over individuals as well, have them work on the fields, pick, operate all of those things. And same thing with the H2Bs, go back and forth every single year. I think the easiest lift is really to expand those programs. The H2A program does not have any cap on it, so you can bring as many people as you want over every single year, and farmers do, and that's the way a lot of crops get picked in the fields in the United States right now. On the H2A to H2B program size, I can see them extending, instead of 65,000, maybe, 3, 4, 500,000 of these visas available. Because in most cases, a lot of, undocumented immigrants, when they come over the border, they come for work and safety for most often. If you give them the opportunity to go back and forth, specifically individuals living in Mexico, they will take that opportunity. And you see that through the H2B and the H2A programs where they come over lawfully, work, are put up, do their jobs for 6 to 9 months and go back for the winter season and come back and do it all over again. And we've been doing that for decades. So I do think the easiest lift there is expanding those programs and just having an honest conversation that we just don't have enough workers right now to fulfill the skilled trades. I talked to, as I mentioned before, pavers, electricians, plumbers, general contractors, looking for ways to get more folks on site at their jobs because they just can't find enough talent to do it.
For sure, especially for everybody listening to this, that whether it's skilled trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, a lot of times the new construction side of that business is a little bit more seasonal than the service side. Service side things are always breaking and we're always fixing things, but no matter where you live, there is a season of bigger, more construction going on versus, hey, now we're in a little bit of the slow season. And then, like you said, all the other things that we can really only do during certain seasons, whether it's landscaping, lawn care, snow removal, paving, all these other things that are weather, temperature dependent. So curious, last question before we start to wrap up. I know you said it's only H2B is only for certain countries. How long is that list? What are those countries? Are they all close to us? How does that work?
Yeah, there's like 40 countries on the list. So,
gotcha. So
like, think of most of
pretty extensive.
Most of Central and South America would qualify, right? There are places over in Asia, but honestly, the trip and the recruiting and the language barriers, might prevent. We have not seen a lot of clients bring folks over from Southeast Asia or Asia on the H2B programs. It's primarily Central and South America. Most of those countries, it's a familiar work visa to a lot of folks in those countries because we have hundreds of thousands of people coming over every year, anyways. So we've never necessarily had an issue. The question becomes now, what country do you want to recruit in, right? Certain countries have different types of skill sets in their population. For example, on the high school side, I'll give you an example. Like Mexico's really good at producing engineers from some of their universities in southern Mexico, right? While folks like maybe folks from Argentina, or perhaps the Caribbean, for example, are better oriented for service because they have stronger English language skills in those countries. So you can sort of understand country by country what skill sets you're looking for. For example, if you have a lot of like truck driving in a particular country, that might be the place where you want to recruit from if you have a seasonal trucking business.
Love it. This has been awesome, Matthew. So if somebody is listening to this and they want to actually start this process, I know you said, hey, if you want to bring people over in the summer, you really got to get moving by September, October.
Yep.
With obviously you doing this, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you? What's the best place to then take the first step in taking action?
Yeah, I mean, one, do some research on your own. The H2B stuff is out there. It's pretty easy to understand the process and what the visa requires. Try to figure out if it's a good visa for your type of business in the first place. If you go down that rabbit hole, I think, and you figure out, yeah, like I need to talk to somebody about this to understand more, you can always reach out to us or an immigration attorney. My law firm's website is meltzerhellrung.com. We have a contact us there. You can fill that out. We'll reach out within 24 hours, schedule a call, discuss your business, what your needs are in terms of skill sets and positions, what the seasonality of the business looks like. And then we can kind of map out pricing and a plan going forward. I would say that now is probably the best time to be considering this because for the summer season next year, spring, summer, and fall, you really have to start in the next 30 to 60 days talking to somebody, getting your paperwork around, starting that process, because it is about I would say a 3 to 6 month lead into just being able to apply for the lottery, which opens early next year. And you got to be ready for that so you can get your folks in and get a shot at bringing over that 20 or 30 people that you need.
There you guys have it. So if you want to get started with this program, September of any year is a great time to start if you're looking to bring people over the following year. If you want to reach out to Matthew directly, like you said, his website is meltzerhellrung.com. Matthew, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey, and providing a ton of actionable advice. Really good insight because we don't have this conversation a lot, but as you and I know, there's so many businesses that say, I could grow if I just had more people. And to me, it makes it a lot easier if you're in a seasonal business to have a seasonal agreement where we don't feel bad laying people off and all that. It's just part of the program, and then they'll come back next year. Matthew, thanks again for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, always happy. Thank you for having me, and always willing to discuss staffing things with other entrepreneurs and business owners like myself. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care, Paul.
And before you head out, if you are ready to have a business that produces consistent positive cash flow so that you can have a financially healthy business and achieve your personal goals, let's make it happen. Head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com/call to book a free financial assessment of your business. I will dive into the financials of your business, take a look at what's going on, find any red flags as well as opportunities that you have in your business. Let's make it happen. Again, thebluecollaradvisors.com/call. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. If you're ready for different results, it's time to start doing things differently.